brutal war, where S-300 missiles strike and send guns as the U.S. Army arrive at Ukraine border. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia are at their highest in years, with the Russian troop buildup near the two nations' border spurring fears that Moscow could launch an invasion in the coming weeks or months. This has stoked fears in Kiev and the West that the Kremlin may start a new war with its neighbor and former province that chose to break away from Moscow's political orbit. At the moment, about 100,000 Russian troops and thousands of military equipment are stationed on the border between Russia and Ukraine. However, footage of a large-scale transfer of military equipment from the eastern part of Russia towards the western borders is actively published on the web, which indicates that the Russian troops have been brought to full strength. Combat readiness against the backdrop of a very high risk of attack from NATO. Given the scale of the transfer of military equipment, we can talk about building up Russian troops on the border with NATO and alliance partners for up to 500,000 people, which means that most of the Russian troops will be in this direction. On the presented video frames made in different parts of the country, one can see numerous echelons with a wide variety of military equipment: tanks, multiple launch rocket systems, light armored vehicles, engineering vehicles, military truck, field artillery, etc. Judging by the numerous publications on the web, at present moment in the direction of the borders of Russia and NATO put forward dozens of echelons with equipment in the military. Previously, it was assumed that the military equipment transferred to the western part of Russia would be deployed on the border with Ukraine due to the risk that the Ukrainian armed forces could attack both the Donbass and Crimea. However, apparently Russian troops will be deployed to numerous military field camps along the entire western border and, more likely, even on the border of neighboring Belarus with Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. The reason for this is the refusal of the US and NATO to negotiate security, and apparently the measures taken by Russia will be really tough, although it is clear that the key goal of the Russian military is to protect the country's borders. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military has deployed a division of S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems on the border with Crimea. The exact location of the complexes remains unknown. However, according to a number of sources, the complexes are deployed approximately 30 kilometers from the Russian border, which does not exclude provocations from Kiev. At the moment, it is known that the S-300 Favorite Air Defense Missile System Division was transferred to the border with Crimea from the Joint Forces Operation Zone. At the same time, no specific goals for the deployment of the S-300 complexes on the border with Crimea have been named. The S-300 Anti-Aircraft Missile Division has already taken over on combat duty to protect the airspace of Ukraine. This unit is part of the Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, named after Hexman Philip Orlik. It covers cities and important infrastructure facilities of the country from an enemy air attack from the southern direction, including from the territory of Crimea, the information resource Military informs. With a relatively small target engagement zone, the S-300 APU complexes do not pose any threat to Russia. However, experts draw attention to the fact that Kiev poses a threat to civil aviation. Meanwhile, NATO will conduct a major military exercise 400 kilometers from the Russian border. Great Britain, The United States and a number of NATO countries intend to conduct large-scale military exercises 400 kilometers from the Russian borders, in which 2 aircraft carrier strike groups will be involved at once. One of them will be led by the HMS Prince of Wales aircraft carrier of the British Navy, and the second by the USS aircraft carrier Harry S. Truman, US Navy. Two carrier strike teams, 2022 NATO troops and a large number of military aircraft will take part in the Cold Response 35 military exercise, according to the Barron's Observer. It is argued that this will be the largest NATO military exercise held in the Arctic Circle since the 80s of the last century. It is reported that the Russian side may begin to conduct its own exercises, including with the use of hypersonic weapons to defeat surface targets. This will allow NATO to visually demonstrate the capabilities of the Zircon missiles.